Thank you.
I was reading over your consults. Flora, great with the family, but I guess with strangers trying to touch her, we're starting to see some defensiveness.
Starting to, yeah.
Yeah.
We got her May last year from Paws when she was 8 years old, so we have no history of anything. And we got her, and she's very loving and affectionate and all that.
She's bitten us a couple of times, but now I can brush her teeth, I can touch her paws, I can do anything to her and she won't try to bite me. But if a stranger, she'll come up to a stranger, kind of like she is now, and just like hug the leg, love on you, and then someone goes to pet her.
Around her face.
And then she lets out a scream and then bites.
I see. Like bite with punctures?
Bite.
Yeah, like the last person, he said, I thought I was the dog whisperer. He's been to our house several times to fix the internet stuff. And he leaned over to pet her, and she's acting very loving, and all of a sudden she really got him.
He's met her multiple times.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it wasn't the first
multiple times prior to that.
Prior to that, yeah.
And had they interacted before?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why he thought he was the dog whisperer. He said he was petting her, you know. And then he was on the front porch. I don't know. No, but she's bitten people in the house. And we just don't know what triggers it. And
Okay.
And it's because she lures you in, like she's really friendly, her tail's wagging.
Tricks you.
Yeah.
But this didn't.
She's really reactive.
It didn't start this way when we first got her. It started maybe 6 or 7, 5 months afterwards. I don't know, 6 months afterwards, where we had the first. It was around the holidays. People were over, and I thought, well, maybe because it's a big crowd, and they would lean over to pet her, and she just got them.
And punctures as well?
Yeah. Punctures.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not just like a break; it's a full-on bite. Okay.
Yeah.
And you said you got her a year ago, is that correct?
May of 2023.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were these behaviors from the get-go, or did you start to see them like over
They
the
kind of started to build up as she was a little, we would notice that if we touched her kind of armpit areas, that she might snap at us.
Like I can't pick her up like this, or she'll cry. And I've taken her to the doctor several times. If I were to go like this, I have to pick her up to scoop her up.
I see.
She would cry. So there's something about picking her up like that, but that's not what people were doing. People were just leaning over and petting her face like this, and then all of a sudden, she reacts.
I gotcha. So
other than that, she's extremely loving, extremely sweet. She does have some accidents in the house, peas, but
and she sees other dogs, and she comes off really aggressive, but she's never like attacks another dog.
When she gets to go up and see them, they sniff and she's done. You know what I mean?
Okay.
She doesn't bite the dogs.
When you take her for a walk, is her energy like this? Like right now, she's anxious and stressed.
During the day, yeah.
Okay. It's all this noise. We live on State Street.
Okay.
She has no problem walking at night.
Okay.
No problem.
Completely different dog.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay. So I know you said in the beginning with you guys, there was a little bit of biting. Any punctures with you?
She didn't break my skin, but she got me pretty good. She's gotten Morgan pretty good.
Well, Morgan, we were trying to, my older daughter is a dog groomer, and she was trying to groom her, and my other daughter, the other sister was holding her, and that's the only reason she bit her, because she doesn't like to be groomed.
But that was that was like probably soon after we got her. So yeah, the bites weren't like as bad as they are now.
Okay, so over the course of time, they've gotten more severe.
They've gotten more severe, yeah.
But with you guys,
she's so loving, unbelievably loving.
I can do anything.
Now that you've passed that, how long would you say it took you?
I guess a year.
Oh wow, so just recently.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay. And how about for you?
Right away, I had no problem.
Okay, are you the one that picked her up from Paws and everything? Yeah. Was anybody with you?
A girlfriend, Jenny. She's a big dog person, you might know, in the city. She rescues dogs.
Okay. How was she with Jenny? Did they interact at all?
They didn't really interact. I was a little nervous to go to the Paws out on 26th Street, so Jenny.
Oh yeah, I know.
Drove me.
I used to live over there.
Yeah. So Jenny drove me and then dropped us off. But Jenny she rescues pit bulls.
But was Flora nice with Jenny?
Yeah. Well, I never really saw her. She didn't really interact that day.
Okay.
She was shaking a lot. I brought her home, but she was loving to Morgan when I brought her home. She was away at school.
Okay, so you brought her home, and Morgan is home.
Morgan, yeah, she was.
And then how is her relationship with Morgan? Is that the groomer?
Morgan. No, Morgan.
That's our other sister. So it goes me, Morgan, Charlotte. Charlotte's the groomer.
Okay.
Charlotte.
I like Charlotte.
Charlotte isn't really around much. She lives in California, but Morgan is home the most.
Okay.
Out of all the sisters.
Okay.
and she's great with Morgan.
Okay.
She loves it. Yeah, she's very
From the
attached to
get-go?
Morgan. Yeah, she only had the biting thing when we were trying to groom her.
Yeah, it
Okay,
really
so
only.
it's all contextual.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay. And with like outward bites, like anybody that's not the family, we have the internet guy you said.
Yeah.
But he'd been
One
over
of-
to our house several times.
One of my guy friends who comes over a lot.
Okay.
And has touched her, and he walks her.
Uh-huh.
So they have like a good relationship. And there was one time that he went to go pet her, and she just got him on the thumb, like really bad.
Yeah.
And I think those are probably like the worst bites that have happened.
But more, just not as bad.
Yeah.
So with the thumb bite, had he just entered the home? What was the?
We were in there for probably like 10 minutes, and then we went downstairs, and then she came with us, and he went down for a pet, and then she got him.
Okay.
That's kind of unusual too. I mean,
Yeah.
And he had touched
do
her
it so
or pet her
quickly.
multiple times prior?
Yeah.
Okay. The internet guy, this was like on your front porch, you said? He was coming up, you opened the door, she comes out,
She came out
and then he goes to greet her? Okay, and then prior to that, he also had pet her several times?
in the house. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this is the first time outside the house?
It was that. Yeah.
And who's the other, the third?
My friend Harry, he comes over a lot, interacts with her a lot.
Okay, and then what happened on that time?
Oh wait, no, that was the thumb.
Well, we had that Christmas party. Quite several people in the house, but she had always been good. And one of our friends just again leaned down to pet her. She did this to two different people, and he bit them both. She bit them both pretty bad. They were bleeding.
Were they petting her at the same time?
No, I think it's two different incidents.
Within the same?
No, different parties.
Okay, different parties. Okay.
We have a lot of parties. So,
And I say that she shouldn't be invited to the parties, but
well, so we put for her graduation party on the roof. We put a muzzle on her, and she stayed downstairs for the most part.
Okay. With those two, on the two different party occasions, had they like just entered the home and they were like?
They were there for a while.
They were there for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
oh, Flo.
Anything else I should know about her?
Other than she might have some like joint issues.
Yeah, I just saw her walking up the stairs, and
She kind of slipped down the stairs the other day.
Yeah. I don't think it was bad for
We have
that.
another dog that she's great with.
Okay.
They walk together.
This is what she does.
They hang out. She'll like attack him to get his bones, but they never have gotten into like a fight.
Okay. So resource guarding?
Yeah.
Or like kind of. When in those incidents where she bit like Harry, the two people, and then the internet guy, were they talking like in a high pitched voice at all, or were they just calm and quiet petting her?
She's calm and quiet.
Yeah, Mark doesn't really
No.
speak in a high tone.
Okay.
We were just petting her.
Okay. So good information. Reason why it's important is because it helps me try to distinguish what the problem is. I already have an idea.
Okay.
But a lot of times people don't see what they're doing as bad,
Yeah.
right? So like most people go, oh, hey puppy.
Right.
And their energy is like high pitch and all that stuff. And we think we're being cute and friendly, but a lot of dogs don't like that.
Yeah.
And that's why they get bit.
Okay.
But the human goes, it was unprovoked, because I was being friendly, so they don't understand. And I go, no, it's provoked. You just
Yeah.
don't see what you're doing as bad as it would be to the dog.
Yeah.
So
Their perspective.
here, clearly anxious, right? A lot of shaking and the heavy breathing, okay? So there's obviously some anxiety issue there. The other stuff that I'm hearing sounds like a nervous issue,
Okay.
okay? So fear, anxiety, and nervousness look similar, but they have a defining characteristic, okay? Fearful dogs, if she was fearful, somebody knocks, she starts barking at them. They enter, she might charge a bit, but she's not going to fully confront them. She would just keep barking, and if they move towards her, she would run away.
Yeah.
If they moved away, she would run in. And it's just kind of this back and forth game. So that's a fearful dog. An anxious dog won't settle. So like right now, you see how she's whining and she's pacing back and forth?
Yeah.
So that's anxiety. It does not relax, okay? Nervousness will relax, but then if there's a sudden change in the environment, they tend to trigger, okay? But also with nervous dogs, they're the ones that when they come up and they seem like they're inviting you, and then you go to give them affection, they bite.
That's the bite. Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I was like, all right, all these things to me sound like nervous bites. So if you would have said, in all the occasions, everybody was talking to her in a high-pitched voice, I go, that's part of the problem.
Okay.
If she's already under a state of stress as a baseline, we're technically adding more stress.
Yeah.
And then it just exacerbates from there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or even potentially, because she's a smaller dog, we get a lot of this, right? And sometimes this looming, I mean, if you take
That's-
and you put
oh,
yourself
yeah,
in that
for sure.
perspective,
The
right?
bites that
I'd be
that
freaked-
you
I
at
freaked
the
out.
Christmas party and the guy on the porch, although he did lean down. Because remember, you were
I mean, yeah, but
watched out,
everyone
yeah.
is
Yeah.
To some degree, towering.
is over her.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Right? And the other thing is, a tail wag doesn't always mean happy.
I think that's
That's
always
the
the biggest
issue.
thing.
Yeah.
Is a tail wag does not always mean happy.
Yeah.
Right? So, like when you mentioned earlier, she jumps on your leg, right?
what she did to you.
Yeah, I felt some pressure, kind of like this, right?
Yeah.
As I go,
She's like
yeah,
hugging you.
yeah, I'm not gonna touch that.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever had a dog sit on your feet? Do you know why they do that? Claiming.
My
My
dog
owner.
does that all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Sleeps on our pillow.
So
Yeah.
if I had my pit Lexi, right, and you showed up with your dog, she wouldn't do anything with your dog, but she would sit in front of me.
Yeah.
And she's going, "This is my owner," right? And then if your dog tried to come to my space, she would nip.
Yeah.
But she's protecting us because she's going, "I don't like this dog's energy. I don't." Even though your dog is small.
Yeah.
Right, because human logic, and I go, dogs don't see the world that way.
No.
The dog just goes, "This is my owner. You guys walked up. You're in our personal space, right?" She doesn't understand you booked an appointment and you paid a fee, right?
She's like, "We don't know
You're
you."
here, exactly. She's like, we're here, and then you just show up and you bring this dog with that kind of energy. Don't get too close, right? So that's establishing boundaries, right? But again, people don't see it that way.
Yeah.
So that's what my job is. My job is to help you see the world as your dog sees it. Obviously correct the things that we don't want, but then how do you live with a dog like this? Okay, because I don't like the word dog training because training implies that sometime it's done.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's you're
Yeah.
learning how to live with this dog, how to communicate with her, how to like in here, helping her feel comfortable, right? By
Yeah.
telling her like there's nothing to worry about, right? But at the
She
same
has no
time,
idea.
we have to hold her accountable and not allow her to bite. Like that has to be corrected. Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
always going to sit there.
Yeah.
But so far, they've all been friends. So
Yeah.
we don't have any lawsuits or reporting to the police. But
But also, I have noticed that, like, it's not, maybe it's just like my psychology 101 class speaking, but like I've seen when she goes and like, if she attacks a dog, and then my mom and sister will kind of pull her to the side and like pet her, not attacks it, but like barks at it,
Yep.
pull her to the side, pet her to like distract her. But isn't that like a positive reinforcement
Yes.
sorry.
of like
Yes.
you're
So-
like rewarding her
Yes.
for barking.
So yes. So you're the first person in 15 years that has put that together.
Really?
So psychology 101 is
Don't
serving you
your
well.
head-
Yeah,
Our
my
heads
college
already.
degree did
Our
something.
head's already up here.
So this is a very common thing, okay? Is that we understand your intention. You want to console. You want to teach her like that's not a threat, right? But touch, affection is a reinforcer. So if you said, Flora, sit, and she sat, if we don't have a treat, what do? Good girl, we pet the dog, right? So you're telling her, I want to see that again, and I'm acknowledging you by petting you. So when she's barking at a dog, even if you pull her to the side, if she's still in an agitated state and you're trying, even if you're like, it's okay, one, you've softened your energy, so that's not leadership energy, but then also you're touching and you're telling her, continue to do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what we do in protection training. That's where we're training a dog to be aggressive on command, like the police canines and stuff like that. We have a harness on them. We don't want anything inhibiting the throat. We have one person holding the dog. We have another person antagonizing the dog to piss them off. Once they start growling and lunging, we pull back to create more frustration, and then we go, good. Okay? But we want it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We want to build that. So a lot of times people are unintentionally creating these protection
Attack dogs,
dogs,
yeah.
right? Because everybody does that. Right, because
Yeah.
that's the human mindset. I want to console my dog because they must be acting this way because they're scared. I go, maybe. In some cases, they're scared. Some cases, it's because since she's already at this baseline stress level,
Yeah.
right? If we think of thresholds, like we have 1 to 10, right now she's probably like at a 4 to 6. She sees a dog, very easily jumps to 10.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why one of the first things that I do is help the owner get the dog to 0, 1, because then it takes more to get to 10. And there's usually, you start to see more steps. So when people go, my dog goes 0 to 10, it's the dog's not at a 0. The dog's at a 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But they're so used to seeing it like that, they just think that's their dog's
their
0.
baseline, yeah.
Exactly. And then it looks like 0 to 10.
Yeah.
So when I come in
Flo.
and they actually
Flo.
see 0, they go, wow, this is so much different. And they go, I've noticed my dog is less reactive. My dog is giving more signals now because it's
said-
0, 1, 2,
Two, okay.
4, 6, 10.
Okay.
You see that?
Yeah.
So that's why with those bites, if she's already at a baseline stress level and then they're approaching it incorrectly or they're adding in energy Or it can also be like her, to a degree, like, I can do what I want with you, but you can't do what you want with me. And
yeah.
I will set a boundary at some point. So that's what we call a bully behavior.
Okay.
Okay, we do get that. I get it with dogs with their, I actually have, he's at my daycare today. His name's Win. A little guy like this. Owners couldn't put his collar on. They couldn't put a leash on. They couldn't put him in the kennel. They couldn't do nothing because he would bite them all. Okay. The mom handled the dog no problem. The grandmother, no problem. Because from the first day she met him, when he tried it, she's like, yeah, you're not doing that. And she just did whatever. And he's like, okay, I can't bully you.
Yeah.
But the daughter and the fiance, when they saw that behavior, like, oh, like,
yeah,
and they were scared. So now the dog's like, well, I can bully you, but then I can't bully grandma. So when I was like, so this is good because this shows me that he's not confident, right?
Yeah.
Now they can handle him, no problem, all that stuff. But they had to push things and teach him like, you can't bully us, you know. But they would say like, oh, he'll come to you for affection, you'll pet him, and then 30 seconds in he starts growling, and if you don't stop, he'll bite you.
Exactly.
Like, he's bullying you.
Yeah, she shows the teeth, and
But it's pretty quick from there.
a lot of people don't see it. And then we got her a vest that says "Don't touch." I forgot to mention that my boyfriend, who comes over a lot, like both of my sister and my boyfriends, she's
Loves
perfect
them,
with.
Yeah.
Loves them.
Okay.
Listens to. They can touch her.
Meet them.
She met Owen right away because Owen would take her to his house.
Yeah, she met Owen right away, and she met my boyfriend and I not long after that because they got her in May. We probably came home from college like a week later.
Okay. So the reason why that's important is typically whenever, so like for puppies, for example, if we get a puppy at 2 months, everybody and every dog that meets a puppy between 2 to 6 months, right? If there's a behavioral shift at 6 months, which is very common, all the people that dog or puppy met prior are in the circle of trust.
Yes.
Anybody after, forget about it.
They're done.
Super
Yeah.
common.
Charlotte is not in the circle of trust.
Yeah.
No, she growls at the older daughter, the dog groomer.
I gotcha.
When she comes into town, she
Hates her.
I'm afraid of
With
her.
dogs like Flora, 2 to 4 weeks
Yeah.
if you rescue a dog.
Yeah.
Right, so if you rescue a 3-year-old dog, it takes 2 to 4 weeks for them to settle in and find their place within the home.
Okay. And that was Owen, because Owen fell in love with her because she was so loving and everything. And then he would take her.
Also forgot about this huge thing. Owen would take her to his house, and Owen's mother, who we thought she liked, I mean, she's never bitten before, was never an issue. She goes to their house all the time. The mom was washing her feet, and she bit her
So she's not allowed in that house anymore.
pretty bad. So that was another
I
night.
wash her
Yeah.
feet. I take a little wipe and I wash off her feet.
But that's probably the only bite that's ever not happened in our house.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm like flagging is touch sensitivity, obviously with the grooming and stuff, with the way that you're picking up. Here with the paw washing, right?
Yeah.
That's a separate thing.
Okay.
That's why I said earlier, like, it's contextual.
Right.
So like, I'll get clients or they'll do consults and go, oh, this dog's human aggressive. And they go, tell me what happened. And they go, my dog was eating and I put my hand in the bowl. And I go, that's resource guarding.
Yeah.
That's not human aggression.
Yeah.
And I don't recommend you put your hand in your dog's bowl. Okay. But it happens.
even know
We
that.
don't.
Yes.
We don't do that.
You'd be surprised how common that is.
Oh my
okay?
God.
But it's contextual. So I'll
Right.
tell them your dog's not human aggressive. It just so happens to be that a human placed their
doing
limb in the bowl. Your dog is a resource guarder, right? And then they go, oh, okay. They don't. They just generalize it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So here, like if you had like video and I watched it, I go, this is exactly what's happening,
Yeah.
right? From what you're telling me, I'm going, this is either a touch sensitivity thing, or this is a bully type thing, stemming from or her already being at a baseline stress level. You know, does that make sense so far?
Perfect
It's not
sense,
a
yeah.
concrete answer.
I think that makes a lot of sense because the only time that she will never go out of her way to run up to someone and bite them.
Right.
It's, oh my gosh, hi, let me do this. Oh, I'll pet you, and then bite.
For a while, we thought it was something in her jaw because people were
Hi, sweetie.
in our
I know.
basement. We have a bar, and people would come over, and we thought it was that they touched her in the wrong spot. So I took her to the vet. The vet, she's fine at the vet. She sits on the table, they touch her, they do everything to her, and she doesn't react.
Interesting.
Oh,
yeah.
you're getting her.
It's what about outside? Have you ever been outside and someone interacted with her?
Yes, and she's never bitten anyone outside.
So
Because we take her on the walks, and then everyone, like other dog owners, if our dogs are saying hi, and like she'll go up to them, and then they'll scratch her on the face.
But we tell them
Not to.
Tell them not
We're
to.
saying tell them not to.
Potentially also territorial, with the variable
Yes.
being at your boyfriend's place
Yeah.
with the mother, right? But that can also be a thing where she just feels more empowered because she's in the home.
Yeah.
So there's a number of like options. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's more so to give you an understanding of your
Right.
dog's behavior. But when it comes to the actual solution, I tell everybody like it doesn't matter. It's just so you go have some peace of mind
To know,
'Cause you-
yeah.
exactly.
'Cause
Okay.
otherwise, my husband's going to make us get rid of her.
So
Yeah.
what is your goal with Flora here?
Come up with some plan, like, well, the plan that we have come up with so far is we got her vest that says "Do not touch me." So we would like for her, I mean, we're gonna try to get people to not touch her as much as possible because that's our responsibility.
Correct.
But I think the kind of going, I guess, yeah, understanding it more and her going up to dogs and just freaking out. Also, we could somehow figure out how to lower the stress level. I have no, like,
I don't know if she lived with like an older person and just never went outside. But these trucks, or even when we walk her down the street, a truck comes by and she
sprints home.
yeah, and we're on State Street, so it's a pretty busy street. See a garbage can?
Yeah.
She's just very, very
So you know nothing
upset.
about her past.
Nothing.
Okay.
But like when they gave her to us, they said, "Oh, she's so sweet. Everybody at Paws loves her," and you know.
Yeah. So the reason for that is because sometimes, and it does happen, unfortunately, but like with rescues, if they don't know anything about the dog and the dog is completely fine there, it's because the dog's not in a home setting.
Yeah.
It's in a completely
Different.
There's
Environment.
no real structure. You got different people, different shifts, so they don't really attach to anybody,
Yeah.
right? So they can seem sweet, and then once you put them in a home, all of a sudden they're like, okay, I have a territory now, I have a family now, I have something to protect, right?
Back to my
And
old
then-
tricks.
Exactly, you see these things, and it's also possible that none of this ever was a thing until now. Because if she did have the same owner for the first 8 years of her life, it went from the owner to a rescue to you guys.
Yeah.
And that's quote unquote traumatic.
Yeah.
Right? So then things can stem from that. Again, doesn't matter really, but it
Can I say one thing? So my husband had knee surgery, and he was sitting in a chair, and I got a cane just in case he wanted to use that.
Yep.
And he held it, and
Yep.
she saw it.
Yep.
When we put it away,
Yep.
it freaked her out.
Yeah.
And does that mean someone beat her? No.
So that's a very common thing that I get.
Okay.
Is it possible? Absolutely. Okay. So to give an example, I had a client, he had a Doberman that he rescued. She was clearly abused because she had stab wounds and bullet holes.
Oh.
Okay. In the beginning, she didn't like people. Okay. So that's where I came in. We did the training, of course. She loves everybody. She loves kids, like complete 180, right? In the dog training world, there's a saying, if you take a unstable dog in an unstable environment, unstable dog, but even worse. Unstable and stable environment, still unstable, not as bad. Stable dog, unstable environment, unstable dog. Stable dog, stable environment, stable dog.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They go back to what they
Yeah.
are. Okay. So, I've seen puppies at 2 months. You bring out the broom and they scatter. They don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Right. So that's really what they're
okay.
the flight response, because our first
Gotcha.
instinct typically is fight or flight. Right. So she sees the cane. I don't know what that thing is. It made a weird sound.
Yeah.
It clacked. Whatever. She takes off. Okay. Is it possible somebody in the past hit her with one? It's possible. If you continued to use the cane, I would assume at some point she would get over it because you're not that person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's the next thing I look for. If we
Okay.
know for a fact that that stuff happened, then in the beginning the dog will be wary because it recognizes the object. But once it recognizes you as the human do not use the object in that way,
To hit her,
it goes away. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, let's say I was raised old school, I was spanked. And let's say like when my dad had his belt on, like I'm like the belt, right?
Yeah, I got that.
But if I go to my friend's house, his dad also wears a belt. But his dad's never spanked me.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to have that tie.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's how I would look at it for the dog. And if it was, I tell everybody, for the solution, it still just doesn't matter.
Okay.
It sucks that it happened, but it's not going to help us in any way in terms of
Okay, and I
rehabbing
just
the behavior.
was
Yeah.
wondering if someone
Yeah, it's a general question.
beat her with a cane.
For sure. Anything else?
She'll go outside, and I sometimes carry her down the stairs because I don't want her to have an accident on the way. And she goes outside and she'll pee, and then she'll come and pee in the house. I mean,
Well, that's because she needs to go on a full walk, but she refuses to go on a full walk in the morning
this.
because of the anxiety. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why she pees.
Yeah, I used to walk her every morning. I used to take her out.
Yeah.
Before booking this, did you research how we train, like the methods I use and everything like that?
I was looking at your website a little bit. That was a couple weeks ago.
Okay. I'm gonna explain everything, but just to get it
Yeah.
for me to know.
Yeah, I read the website as well.
Okay. How'd you find us? Google?
Yelp.
Yep. Okay.
Was it you found or more you?
It was me.
Oh. Well, because we need a solution because we love her and we don't want to get rid of her.
So I use remote collar, which is e-collar.
Okay.
You guys familiar with that? A lot of people call it the shock collar.
Yeah.
Have you heard that term before?
I have heard that.
So don't fall into the trap. Okay. So have you ever had TENS therapy? It's the muscle stimulator.
Oh yeah.
Yep. They use it a lot for like sports therapy. If you go
I
to
thought I had
chiropractor,
flexors.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's e-collar. It's
Okay.
a muscle stimulator. Okay.
Okay.
The word shock. So in the dog training world, there's a lot of drama. You have trainers like myself. I use everything. I use food. I use remote collar. I use brown collar. I use every tool available. Okay. And then there's the positive only friend, which is affection, praise, treats. There's some schools of thought you can't even say no. Okay. So I had a client who was in a puppy class. Her puppy did what Flora's been doing.
Yeah.
And she went like this and said no. They booted her out of the class. I swear to God.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it can be kind of cultish sometimes.
Yeah.
So they use words like shock, torture, pain to deter people from seeking out trainers like myself.
Okay.
Okay. Once you understand the technology, you're like, you're not electrocuting the dog, because that's what it makes it sound like. You're
Yeah, it's just like a
electrocuting
little.
the dog. Exactly. Okay. If you felt it next to, like, I actually did a video where I bought a TENS unit from Walgreens and a remote collar, and I'm using them side by side, and they're the exact same technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the other thing you bought? You said from Walgreens?
TENS unit. TENS.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you go, they're like $30, some as high as
Yeah.
$100. Okay. That would be a remote collar in terms of the technology.
Okay.
So Flora here is giving you a great example. Dogs are physical creatures. They nip and bite each other. Okay. They nip and bite in forms of play. They nip and bite as a sign of affection. They nip and bite to correct. In this case, don't touch me, right? Don't touch my paws. Don't try to give me a bath. Don't try to groom me, right? Don't come into my home. All of those would be don't do things, and they use their mouth to establish that. Because unfortunately, she cannot say with words,
Yeah,
please.
fuck off.
Yeah, exactly, right? She can't do that. So, and because her baseline is already at a stress level, right? That when you add a little bit more stress, she's just like, I'm taking this to 10, okay? So I like to think of the e-collar as a bite on a button. It allows me to bite the dog back for things that I don't want. But we can also use it to condition behaviors that we do want, like sit, stay, down, come, place, heel, okay? The reason why I use remote collar is because it's the only tool right off the bat that gives you off-leash reliability, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, logically speaking, you're like, oh yeah, it would be the only tool. Because the moment you take off, I'm sorry.
She was lying on her feet. I was just wondering if she was doing
Oh no, I think she just happened to lay down.
Oh.
Any other tool requires you have a leash.
Okay.
Whether it's a gentle leader,
Oh.
your flat collar, a harness, a slip chain, a prong collar, any other tool requires a leash. Remote collar is the only tool that does not require a leash.
Okay.
So that's why I say it's the only tool that gives you off-leash reliability.
Okay.
Other trainers would disagree. Because if she was 100 feet away and I was like, Flora, come, and she's like, not today, I'm like, yes. I have 127 respective levels of stimulation. I'm going to make it happen. Does that make sense? So if she decides to be like super stubborn, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to 80. She's like, okay, I'm not that stubborn. And here she comes running back, okay?
Yeah.
So that's how that works. We always start low, we work our way up. When we deal with aggression, most people tend to think we're going to trigger the behavior and then punish it,
Right.
okay? That is technically an approach, but it's not the first approach, okay? The first thing I always teach is the heel, which is leash walking. So your issue of her not wanting to walk and go potty and stuff because not wanting to walk would most likely be done by the end of the first class, if not the second class, okay? So when she puts the brakes on, most likely due to stress, she's going, not right now, guys. I'm very uncomfortable. There's loud sounds out there. You can force her because of size, right? You're much bigger and stronger than her.
Sometimes I pick her up and carry her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mentally, however, she is stuck in that state. Like right now, she's stuck. She's just starting to settle because this is like one of the first times she's laid down.
Yeah.
But in like 2 to 3 minutes, she's probably going to get back up again
And then
because she's
kind
still
of pace
stuck.
and-
Okay.
yeah.
Whereas if I had my pit with me, she'd be here
Just hanging.
completely relaxed. Okay. So with the remote collar, let's say she puts the brakes on. I usually start around 10 or 15. That's where most dogs tend to feel it.
Okay.
And we're tapping on the button, right? And we're biting at her to motivate her to make a decision opposed to just this.
Yeah.
Okay. 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, it just keep going up, okay? And eventually she's gonna go, hey, this is getting uncomfortable. It's continuing to increase. Me doing this isn't getting it to turn off. And then you're gonna see her pop forward.
Okay.
And the moment she pops forward, guess what happens?
She just keeps going.
What else? What do you think happens with the remote collar?
Oh, it stops.
It stops.
Okay.
So if I
then
hit
she
45,
realizes
yes.
that's
She
how to
moves
get it to
forward,
stop.
it stops.
Yeah.
And she goes, hey,
Oh.
I countered my fear, I moved forward, and that thing that was gradually increasing disappeared, right? And then because of habit, puts the brakes on again. I'd probably reset, start at 10 to 15, work my way back up again, but maybe she responds to 35 this time because she's going, hey, this is the same pattern. It's starting to go up incrementally, and then she moves forward, it turns off again. And she's like, hey, whenever I counter myself and my instinct to resist or just stop, the real thing I don't like disappears, because we have concrete discomfort and we have emotional discomfort, right?
Yeah.
The emotional discomfort is the discomfort of being out here for whatever reason. The remote collar, however, is physical, it's concrete. She feels it. And this will always override the emotional. Okay? So eventually she goes, you know what happens if I just continue moving, right? Nothing happens on the collar, but then also nothing is happening here.
Yeah, everything is still
So
okay.
eventually, through repetition, she starts going out walking in the world, and she may not be a normal dog because this is who she is, right? But she will be worlds better than what she was before.
Yeah.
And you'll actually be able to walk her and all that stuff, okay?
Could we get one of these collars and then like kind of and practice it with you? Or is that,
yes,
is that the plan?
So here, like, I'll explain the theory,
Okay.
how it works, and then what I would recommend.
Okay.
Okay. So that's always class 1. Okay. The other reason why the heel is so important is because of conditioning. We need her to understand the collar. It's not. It's human technology that we've created and adapted to train dogs. Even though physicality is natural to her, it's how she communicates. This stimulation of her muscle is not natural. Okay. So with the heel, most people walk their dogs 3 times a day, 7 days a week. So that's 3 times a day, 7 days a week. You're practicing this exercise, okay? So we get her over the walking problem. E-collar is also a stressor because it's some level of discomfort. So guess what we're going to see a little bit more of?
Well, stress?
Stress, anxiety, nervousness.
More stress?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. This is
Okay.
normal.
Okay.
Because so she's stressed right now, just being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we add a stressor.
A stressor, then it's gonna
Yes,
go up.
and it's going to go up, but we're going to work her through it.
to work back down.
So
yeah.
yes, so then when she realizes, hey, I'm technically controlling this other stressor, she actually starts to build confidence. Okay? Because she's thinking, I can't do it. I help make her do it, but she doesn't know I'm manipulating the collar.
Yeah.
She thinks she made the decision.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing the tool can do that no other tool can do. Is a dog thinks they made the decision.
I never thought about it like
despite the fact that I'm manipulating it.
Yeah.
Okay. So when she comes forward and she's like, oh, okay, I can walk in the world, everything is fine, and we continue to repeat this, I want her, at some point she will feel the collar and interpret it similarly to a dog bite. So now
Okay.
I have a communicator, right? So we start with that first. Exposure also helps get over the dog over stress faster. When people see the dog go under stress, they tend to want to do less.
Yeah.
And I agree if you cannot help the dog through it. But with this, we can work the dog through
Okay.
it, right? So then we start to see her making progress and stuff. So we have week 1, you come back week 2, you give me feedback. Hey, Jessie, she's seeming less stress on the walks. She's actually potting on the walks. You know, it's 50-50 now. I go, good, that's already some progress. We work on the second half of heel, okay? Make a few adjustments in case of the collar, like levels or whatever. Go off and do your homework, okay? You give me feedback. How we doing? Oh, much better, this and that, right? 80% better, whatever. Cool. Third class, most likely, I'm going to jump into pressure work. Okay. Pressure work is when I touch your dog, okay, and go, what are you going to do? So for Win, who's the dog I mentioned earlier, that was biting the boyfriend, the wife and fiance or whatever, that's exactly what we did.
Okay.
Okay. So by the third class, when we did the pressure exercise, social pressure, his instinct typically was to bite right away. Once I did the first 2 classes and came in on the third class, his instinct was actually to run away and not bite.
Okay.
Okay. So because his baseline stress level was lower. So now he's thinking, okay, I'm not going to jump to fight right away. Let me see if I can escape this. Okay. I continued to pursue him. At some point, he couldn't fight anymore. He got stuck. He did try fight. We corrected it a couple of times, stopped it like that. Okay. Now, there's going to be limitations here.
Yeah.
But we always do I want the dog to learn that the bite itself, the thought or the action of biting will have consequences.
Yes.
Okay? A lot of trainers work around the problem. So let's say she was barking at me. They would correct the barking, okay? But if nothing corrects the biting, it's always an option. I'm correcting the outward symptom, right? But the moment somebody pushes and she's like, all right, I got corrected for barking, but nobody said nothing about biting. So I have a sleeve and a suit that I wear. Like you've probably seen them, like for the canine stuff. Like obviously I don't need the suit for her. I have my sleeve.
I don't know.
So when I go to touch her, she doesn't understand that the sleeve isn't me.
Yeah.
Okay, so it allows me to pressure the dog. They can do whatever they want, and I can also evaluate the bite, right? Because I can feel it through the sleeve. And there's some cases where the dog bites, and it's a 1 out of 10, and the owner is panicked and they're stressed and like, oh my God. And I go, what do you think that was? Like, it was a 10. And I go, no, it was a 1.
Yeah.
It's a 0.1 on the Richter scale, if that. Because, you know, they're over evaluating because aggression is seen as bad and liability and all that stuff. So I come in and go, nope, this dog gave a 1. In other case, I'm like, this dog gave a 6, right? And now we know how serious of a problem we're dealing with. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because our other dog gives off like play bites, and I can like notice, I can see it. He does it with my boyfriend. Well, where he'll like give it like a play bite or something. Or he even, I went to like play with his bone the other day, and he knew it was me. He got me on my nail, so it kind of hurt, but it was not. It could have been like way harder.
Sure,
like I've seen him bite way harder.
That's what she does when she sees dogs.
Yeah.
You talk.
So if that dog, go to bring her to your side. You're
Come here, Flo.
pull back. Yep.
Come here, sweetie.
There you go.
Good
And then now relax.
girl. Can you sit? Floey. You sit? Good
Yeah,
girl.
that would have been a play bite. So like my pet Lexi, she's a gladiator play style. She's very rough.
Yeah.
So like I'll grab her jowls and I'll go like this and you'll see all the stuff, the growling. It looks very aggressive, but it's play. And I'll walk away with scratches. Like that's what that kind of play is. But because I have the ability to also turn it off, right? So the nipping and biting and all that stuff is normal for dogs, but people just tend to categorize it as, you know, don't put your teeth on humans or whatever. And I go, no, this doesn't really work that way.
Yeah.
Okay. So after I do the pressure stuff, it's not just anybody's going to come and touch her. Okay, there's going to be rules in play. I do it as a buffer. Okay, not because I want the dog to be touched by everybody. Yeah. Okay, so I had a client. It was one of my first aggression cases when I started my career. The dog would not let anybody touch its tail, including the owners. Okay, so if the owners touched the tail, the dog would growl and but not like ever fully bite them. But anybody else was getting bit. Okay, so the moment they told me this, I started touching the tail. And it took me about 2 to 3 classes because the dog really wanted nobody touching her tail, right? To get it addressed. To the point that the husband actually cursed me out. And he was like, you didn't fucking helping my dog? Like, this and that. I'm like, trust me, right? So we worked through whatever. Fast forward, we used to live in the same neighborhood. And I ran into him at a bar. He comes up to me and he's like, let me buy you a Jameson and whiskey. And I was like, okay. And what happened was they were at Pilsen Fest, which is a festival on 18th and Ashland or whatever. One of the friends lived off of 18th, and they're hanging out front with their dog. So, and they couldn't do that before. Like, they couldn't have people come over. They couldn't have, they'd be outside with the dog or anything like that because she was super reactive towards dogs and people. Okay. Hanging out, some random kid runs up, grabs the tail.
Oh my God.
The dog does this.
Okay.
Kid lets go, runs away.
So what could have been a lawsuit.
Yes.
And the owners are going.
Yes. So he's like, now I see why you did it. I go, yes. I was like, I don't care that anybody touches your, like, no, they shouldn't touch your dog's tail.
Yeah.
But I was putting a buffer in case it ever happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, will the buffer always work? No. I had another client, he had a pit. His dog was also touch sensitive. Only he could touch the dog. He was coming out of Grant Park, about to cross Michigan on 11th. He was standing there like this, waiting for the light to turn green, and some random person came and then pet the pit on the head. Pit turned around and just chomped the person. Okay, it was a whole ordeal.
Yeah.
He of course called me up, and then I was like, hey, I know we did all the stuff that we do, but you have to understand that your back was given to this person. Yeah. And your dog already, 1, doesn't like being touched by people, but then 2, imagine if somebody just came and grabbed your shoulder.
I would.
Right? Like, you're like, what the hell? Except dogs are more likely to assume threat than a human would. Right. Humans tend to have a little bit of a buffer, right? Because we know there's cops and like laws and prisons and stuff like that, your first inclination isn't going to be like, you're going to hurt me.
Yeah.
That's why there's a buffer there, right?
Yeah.
Dogs don't understand that.
Yeah.
So in his case, his dog went and bit the person. I was like, look, it sucks that it happened. That person should have asked for permission.
Yeah.
You had your back. Your dog had their back to him. Like, it all makes sense to me. I don't hold the dog at fault for that.
No.
That's the human. Does that make sense?
For sure.
So I'm putting in the buffer, and people that would come over that regularly, those are people that go, we can build a circle of trust there. But like, if it's the internet guy that comes every so often, or like a plumber or whatever, I go, nope. Those people, just leave her alone.
Yeah.
Because you also have to think that for her, if everybody's just touching her on a whim, like her own personal boundaries, like it's just like she doesn't have any say.
For sure.
Just like with people.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be out and then like random people
Everyone's
come up
just
like,
like,
hey,
hey.
yeah, exactly. But for whatever reason, for dogs, like that's just how it is.
Yeah.
You know. So to a degree, that's unfair.
For sure.
And then sometimes people come over and they don't interact with her at all. So then she doesn't feel pressure. Like I always have to interact if people come over, even
And
if I
we've
know
told
them.
people, most of it, now
Yes.
they come to our house, we say don't touch
Even
her.
so, my other dog, who's similar to Flora, but he's gotten a lot better. Flora, I know. He was very reactive when people touched him, and because I brought him to college with me. But my friend, who never really liked dogs, he would just come over and just never touched Bodhi for years. And now Mark is his favorite person because he's just like, yeah,
Never pressured them.
you don't.
It's the same thing
I
with
don't care.
my wife's dog. My wife's dog is a nervous dog. So when I first started coming over, she'd be growling. She'd stand like across the room from me, and I would bring no hides and I would throw them at her, and I would completely ignore her. Okay, and she wouldn't touch them. At the time, my wife was like, my girlfriend, right? She'd be like, oh, like she doesn't start chewing until you leave. I go, yeah. I was like, because now that the threat is gone.
Yeah, and then
Eventually she started approaching and taking it from my hand, and then it became greeting me at the door, and then taking it and then chewing it in front of me, and now I'm climbing up the stairs and she's like crying in excitement.
She's
right?
like,
but I
"Give me
never pressured
stuff."
her.
Yeah.
I let her do it on her own. Okay. The issue with people is they see a dog and they just
Yeah.
we're conditioned to just like, oh,
Like,
dog.
oh my God, yay!
Well, like when we walk her, and if the dogs do meet, she's always very nice. They just sniff each other, but they'll go down to pet her.
Yeah.
And then, I just hold my hand so their dog can sniff me.
In those cases, because this has happened too, where clients go, why is it that if the person has a dog, my dog will allow the owner to touch them?
Yeah, and why is that?
And I explain it as they're in a social headspace.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other dog is the icebreaker. So client's dog is interacting with the dog. They're social. So when what is usually a trigger, they kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
Because of the headspace they're in. But if that same owner with that dog were to be approached with someone without a dog, headspace is different.
Oh,
and now we get
interesting.
antisocial behavior. Correct.
That's interesting.
Okay. So there's never, with animal stuff, any kind of concrete answer. There's a lot of ways it can work out, but like I've done this for so long, like if I see something happen, I go, this is why it happened.
Yeah.
Like I can right away
The
give you
context
the
just
answer,
makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah.
And in your case, I go, I have answers that kind of fit what happened, but nothing concrete. Like there's not one that I'm leaning towards going, this is definitely why it happened. Like the food bowl one.
yeah.
Very obviously why that's a concrete answer of why that happened.
Yeah.
Right? Or like
Yeah.
a person enters the home and gets bit. I'm like, that's territorial for sure. Right? There's nothing else. Even if the dog's nervous, fearful, scared, whatever, it's still territorial. But fear, nervousness, anxiety just happens to possibly be a part of it.
I do think you're right on the nose though, with like the the touch sensitivity to anyone, any stranger or anything.
Yeah.
And I think
Yes, you want pets, but you have to.
I think that sounds like a great plan.
I think
The collar and everything.
potentially
So what's your advice? Like, what do you?
Well, it depends on how much you're trying to accomplish. If your
Everything.
goal is just like, I want to be able to walk this dog, and then of course like expand her social bubble, right?
Yeah.
That's a shorter program because we don't have so many things to kind of get done. But if it's like, I'd like my dog to be able to be off leash to some degree, or like let's say you cared about your daughter being able to groom Flora.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that's something I could do because your daughter happens to be a groomer, and I could work with her directly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've worked with dogs in the past that didn't like to be groomed, and I'll tell the owner a lot of this is based upon your groomer. If your groomer knows how to handle, then what I do gives them a baseline and they can take it from there.
Yeah.
If your groomer does not know how to handle, it doesn't matter what I do because the dog's going to go, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to bully you.
Yeah.
Right? So back when we were offering bathing and nail trims and stuff at my facility, We took a lot of dogs, everybody that got
No
booted
one
out.
else would do, yeah.
Yeah, because I know what I would come in, and my brother, like, he's been with me for like 5 years now, you know? So, like, we know what we're doing. So, and the dogs were a problem, but we just worked right through it. And then they're like, oh my God, you actually trimmed their nails. We're like, yeah, that's why it's expensive.
Yeah.
Because it's
Because
work.
we get it, yeah.
we
Sometimes
know
they
how to
do it when they get their teeth cleaned and they're asleep or whatever. Isn't that something about their nails cut that way?
So that would, of course, increase the length of the program.
I don't think we need her to be off leash or anything. Maybe the grooming thing, but I think to begin with, what you talked about, like with the reactivity and like the being able to walk her is really important. And then, yeah, if that would be able to help just kind of how she acts in the house or just her general like anxiety level.
Okay.
That would be great.
We have a little front porch with a, you know, the gate where they're like this big. She can't fit through it. Her dog can. But dogs come by and they just go nuts, and they look mean. I think they'd really just saying hi. They do have some friends in the neighborhood that they know when they go and nothing happens. But they just go. They see these dogs and they just
bolt.
Yeah, and you don't want people to walk by your house with their dogs and
Be like, ew.
That's a separate thing. That's
Okay.
territorial behavior for
Okay.
sure, right? So what they're saying is, we're here
Yeah.
and we see you.
Yeah.
Right. It can be annoying. It's something that can be addressed, but you're not going to eliminate it.
Okay.
Right? Because when you're in your home and you hear dogs walking by, what do you think?
Like, I want to go say hi to them, or
Like, oh, that must be my neighbor walking their dogs.
Yeah.
oh,
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't think that's a threat.
no.
Right.
no.
Anything your dog hears outside of the home to
That's a
them
threat.
is potential threat.
Okay.
And that's why we get a lot of barking. Does that make
and
sense?
is that and then her reaction to the trucks?
That we can work on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if it's outside and stuff. Does she get spooked when she's inside of trucks?
Well, but she won't go outside because we live on state.
Well, no, the
Street,
problem,
so-
she comes out the door, she's ready to go on a walk, a truck comes by, she runs right back inside.
Yeah.
Or
Okay,
we get
yeah.
her onto the sidewalk,
Yeah.
and then a truck comes by, and then she's like, I'm going home.
Yeah.
That all should be doable.
Okay.
Now, there is one little issue here. It's not really an issue, but I just foresee it being like a little bit more difficult. Is your dog's age?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
wondering about that. Yeah.
So I've used a remote collar on dogs as old as 12 years old. Okay. I've also worked with dogs with heart murmurs. Okay. With no issue.
Yeah.
I always leave a little gray area there because something could always happen. I had a lady that called me from New York once, and she claimed that her e-collar trainer, with the e-collar, put the dog under so much stress that she had a seizure. Okay. And because she wanted to train with me, and I told her, why do e-collar? She's like, well, this is the issue. And then
Yeah.
she told me, and she's like, have you ever seen that? I go, no. I was like, however, the trainer had put a collar meant for a Rottweiler
Yeah.
on a min pin
Oh my God.
Oh,
and
gee.
maxed
Oh my
out
God.
the collar.
Why
So I
not?
told her,
It's
I
horrible.
go, that maybe because it's a muscle stimulator. I like, so to me, I like, it's not electricity going through.
Versus-
So I'm like, maybe the
Yeah.
level of stress. Right. When I'm pulling.
Flora, come here.
But I've never
Flora,
myself
Flora.
seen that. I had another client that
Sit.
did a consult, and
Good
they
girl.
said whenever their dog went under stress, that it would have seizures. Like it was like they couldn't figure it out. That was like the only thing that the vet could figure out. So when they were doing the consult, I told them potentially this is going to trigger the seizure or whatever. I've never seen this before. Then they didn't move forward with the training, but I told them theoretically if that's the
Hey,
case,
Flora, come here. Flora,
and
come here.
we move work
Flora,
the
you
dog
sit.
past the stressor stuff, maybe they learn how to handle it better. Maybe the
Yeah.
seizures start to dip. I don't know because they didn't move forward with the training. But those are the only 2 times I've ever heard of anything like that happening.
Okay.
But I have worked with dogs with heart murmurs before. Okay.
Okay.
So the reason why I bring up her age is they tend to learn slower. They tend to be more stubborn.
Yeah.
My theory on why they're more stubborn is because sensitivity-wise, like nerves start
Right.
to die.
Okay.
Right. So the oldest dog I worked with was a 12-year-old husky named Milo.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
He was maxed out on the collar, and he could care less about it.
Yeah.
And I told the owners, I'm like, this is super crazy. This is what I think is most likely happening. You know, your dog's not some badass tough guy. I think your dog is just old, and a lot of nerve endings are probably just dead.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a client, he was probably like in his 60s. He put the e-collar on his hand, and he started feeling it. And we went to about like 70, 80. And he's like, oh, it feels like a tickle. I'm like, not at
That's
that
not
level.
what that is.
But he's like, yeah, he's like, I have some like nerve damage. I'm like, okay. I was like, well, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay. So just heads up there.
Okay.
We do start low, we work our way up.
Yeah.
Okay. I can only take you as far as you're willing to go. Okay. So like, let's say we're doing the pressure exercise. She goes under stress. She gives us aggression, right? because she's under a state of stress, because she's adrenalized, she's aggressive, that alone already usually raises the level.
Right.
Plus, she's older. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I could be at 100 before she starts to feel it and think otherwise and think like, do I really want to continue this, right? I always bring that kind of stuff up with people because it can look ugly. I'm desensitized because I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm like, it's okay. But obviously for the client, it's very stressful. So I always try to paint it worst case scenario. And then if you go, we're willing to handle worst case scenario, then I go, then I can help you. Okay?
We're willing to handle worst case scenario because our worst case scenario is having to put her down.
Sure.
We're
So-
with the biting thing that
And my job, I tell everybody, when people are like, oh, you're a dog trainer, like, do you train puppies? I'm like, my job is actually, this is what I do. Like, this is my specialty, is to keep the dog in the home. Okay.
That's why.
Yes, I'm very proud that I've kept many dogs in their home because these are the dogs that do get put down.
Yeah.
Okay. But it also just comes down to the owner. If you're not willing to take it that far and tell her like this isn't going to happen, right? The problem doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you can help us with the biting issue.
Yes, but there's going to be a number of factors, right? So one is we have to correct the biting. We have to do the conditioning stuff. That's all pretty standard, right? There's going to be boundaries, obviously. Like I wouldn't like let some kid running up screaming like pet my dog, right? That's where you have to advocate for her.
Yeah.
There's certain contexts, like I'm going to educate you so that you can kind of foresee things.
Yeah.
Right? So I had a client, they had their dog for like 5 years. It was a Yorkie. Bit someone for the first time after 5 years. Okay.
Wow.
And they're like, never showed any aggression ever, and then bit somebody, right? And I'm like, was this in the home? And they said yes. I was like, did this person walk in uninvited? And they said yes. And they go, that's why your dog bit them.
Yeah.
And then
What you want?
I was like, I told them every other time a person comes over, because they lived on like a second or third floor.
Oh, you've got to.
Thank you. Second or third floor. Okay. They would buzz, knock, open door.
Routine.
Yeah. Exactly. And somebody, it was the aunt, walks in unannounced because they had just had a baby. They were changing the diaper. They left the door open for the aunt.
Yeah.
So when she entered, the dog goes, hey,
Absolutely
this
not.
is not the norm.
Right. No.
Bit the person. You see that?
You're not welcome.
So to them, it seemed like unprovoked and all that stuff. I'm like, no, like that was provoked. It sucks that it was your aunt, but imagine if it wasn't your aunt.
Exactly.
Imagine if it was a bad person.
Right.
We wouldn't be having this conversation.
No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's certain things that I have to help you understand the way that and see the way she does, because that's what helps you actually work through the problem or around the problem.
Yeah.
Like there's certain things, like I posted a video recently on my YouTube of a dog resource guarding in its kennel, and it's a pit bull. It's like an 80-pound pit bull. None of my staff could take him out. And I look at him, I'm like, all right. And it's all uncut. And you see me do my thing, and I pull the dog out. And once the dog is out, I'm like, this dog is no longer a threat because he's away from the food now.
Right.
I know once I remove him from the food, he's no longer going to be aggressive towards me.
Yeah.
Right. But a person would just see that and just think the dog's aggressive and not want to touch them.
Yeah.
Or still feel kind of like this when they leave because they're not understanding that it's tied to the food. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, definitely going to have to advocate. Not anybody can just touch this dog, right?
We've made it very clear that no one can touch her.
I know you mentioned muzzle earlier. Is she muzzle conditioned?
No.
Do you know what muzzle conditioning is?
No.
So
No, we didn't do it.
yeah. So muzzle conditioning is your dog puts it on and thinks of it like as anything else. It's her collar, it's her leash or whatever. A lot of times in the beginning when a dog isn't muzzle conditioned, especially if there's going to be a stressor involved, you start to see them fight the muzzle.
Yeah.
Okay? I've had dogs rip off dew claws, tear up their face, scratch themselves, bite their lips
Hey, Flora, come here.
because of the muzzle,
Yeah.
which is why conditioning is so important.
Okay.
Conditioning is to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
Okay? I suggest doing that right away.
Okay.
Even if you don't move forward with training, even if you move with another trainer, anybody who knows what they're doing is going to tell you muzzle condition your dog.
Right.
Because it's a part
Flora,
of the process.
come here.
Okay. Because once we start to try to socialize this dog,
Sit.
okay, to break that barrier, okay, there's always risk there. So the muzzle helps keep whomever you're using
Yeah.
feel safe. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're like, okay, cool, that you're small and you have a muzzle on, right? And then your anxiety levels drop.
Yeah.
Okay, because a lot of times when people try to do it without them, they're like this, and like that's why
Yeah.
we do muzzle. Okay, or like let's say you're gonna have 20 people over because you're having a party and you don't want to lock her away.
Yeah.
You just have a muzzle on,
Yeah.
right? Just in case, like you can tell your guests, hey, whatever you do, leave her alone. And then one person has one too many bottles of wine and then pets the dog and something happens.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So
she's got the muzzle on.
it's gonna be a balance of expressing her boundaries, correcting behaviors and stuff, understanding realistic expectations, right? You should be able to have people come over and live, you know, a normal life. And there might be certain contexts where I'll go, it's probably best to just put this dog on a kennel or something like that. Okay. Me as a dog trainer of 15 years can do a lot of things. And then people are like, well, you know, I've seen you do it. I'm like, right.
I can.
Keyword me, right? I'm a dog trainer. I see a lot of stuff that people don't see. And that's why I go, there has to be some kind of limitation. Also, complacency happens a lot, or owners make so much progress. And then they're like, oh, my dog's fixed. And they become lenient. They go back to old habits. They stop reinforcing things. And all of a sudden, behaviors are back. And I get a call, Jesse, the dog bit somebody. And I already know what the answer is. Well, the dog was doing so good. Well, they were doing so good because you were doing a good job about reinforcing the training.
And then you got lazy, so then the dog went back to the old habits.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're training us and her.
Yes. Okay. So the first 2 classes can be here, no problem.
Okay.
This is where I typically train, weather permitting. A lot of distractions, as you can see, we get dogs. So if we see reactivity, I work you through it real time. I don't have to touch the dog. Okay. It's all through you. Very rarely do I handle the dog if it's like the owner absolutely needs it. But for the most part, I always try to work the owner through it. Yeah. Because you're the ones that need to know how to do this stuff. Okay. The touch sensitivity stuff can be done at my facility. It just helps take off
all the
this as a variable, right? You can also have those done in home. There is a $50 upcharge fee for every in-home visit. Even though you may be nearby to here, I still have to leave here from what I'm doing and then go over there, which takes time.
Where's your facility?
I'm near Lake and Sacramento, so west of the West Loop.
West. Okay.
Yeah. And then there'll probably be a couple classes that will need to be done in the home, especially like with people coming over and stuff. Yeah. Because it's contextual. Usually most people do in person, they'll meet me here and then they'll do the facility for all the stuff that we don't need to do in home. And then they'll book the 1 or 2 that need to be done in home when they're needed. Okay. The collar I'd recommend for her is the Dogtra 280C. Tina will send you the information for all this stuff.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I don't care where you get the collar, but I do care that you get the correct collar. Right. Because a lot of times people do Google and then they go, oh, this collar is cheaper. Yeah. The one I recommend for her, I think runs like $230-ish, $245-ish with tax all in. Okay. It is a professional grade collar. They last for years. My collars, the first batch that I had, lasted me about 10 years before I finally had to replace them with a new system. Okay. It's a fully waterproof system, both the transmitter and the receiver, just as FYI. The most common thing that does happen is the battery does get out after a period of time. It's a rechargeable lithium battery, like your cell phone. Right. You can purchase it yourself for like 20, 25 bucks, or we can also replace them for you for 35 bucks, parts and labor included. And then it's kind of back to working like a new collar, as long as it's battery related. Okay. Awesome. If you get the collar through us, if by chance this has happened, but it's rare, if she overrides the collar, which means we're at max power and she could care less about it, we can simply upgrade the collar, charge the difference, and swap them out. No problem. Okay. Perfect.
You guys mark up the collars a little bit?
I'm sorry?
Did you mark them up a little bit? The collar to buy? You said we could buy the collar from you.
I sell them at the price that they tell us to sell it at.
Okay,
yeah.
And then do you guys have a muzzle that you'd recommend? Or just
Baskerville. Baskerville brand, like basket, but with an R, Baskerville. She's probably going to be like a size 2, I'm going to gamble. And then if you ask Tina for the muzzle videos, she can send you a link that covers its muzzle conditioning videos, like 3 or 4 of them. It's a process. I definitely recommend that you start that sooner rather than later. Yeah. A lot of people like to treat it like a high school project and do it the day before they need it. And sometimes it does not work. That's not how it works, yeah. Some dogs, they don't care, easy peasy. We still recommend conditioning just because.
We have people over a lot.
So I think we're gonna get on that, yeah.
If for whatever reason she's not taking to the muzzle conditioning, we do what's called force conditioning, which is we use the remote collar to get the dog to accept the muzzle. Okay. It's not pretty. That's why we do that as a last resort. Yeah. We always do food conditioning first. Okay. And this way, by the time, if you move forward to training, we need it. Ideally, you've already done a month or so of muzzle conditioning, that we're not just trying to slap it on her, because that does happen quite a bit. Okay. I tell everybody, I told you in the console. They're like, oh, I remember. I'm like, I'm positive I got you on video. Yeah. Okay? Because every dog, I can't predict how it's going to happen. Okay. Some dogs don't care. Some dogs care very much.
I think we do already have that muzzle. But I'll check when we get home. If we don't have it, I'll
It's
order
a hard rubber muzzle. They're usually black.
Yeah.
Is that what Bodie was wearing the other day?
I believe so.
he got that off pretty easily.
Probably wasn't fitted correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It needs to be fit very snug.
Okay.
It's not like a collar where it's like the 2-finger rule.
Yeah,
Like you can't even get a
it's
finger under there. It's
on.
super snug.
Okay.
Okay.
Noted.
So in terms of length of time, I most likely recommend at a minimum 6 classes.
Okay.
That's once a week for an hour. I know it doesn't seem like much, okay, but that's why I asked, what do you want to accomplish, okay? Because the more you want to do, the longer it's going to be. 2 classes on heel, that has to happen. 3rd class on pressure work, okay, which is the touch one. The 4th class, probably like an in-home, people coming over, make sure we're doing that correctly, which leaves classes 5 and 6, okay? 5 and 6 would be, how do we introduce her to a person correctly, right? How do we pair positive reinforcement in those contexts to also tie in good things, right? So if I want the dog to like being touched by a person, we do have to correct the behavior we don't want, but then we use positive things to also create a positive association. There is value there, okay? There is no value in positive alone, because if there's nothing to say you can't do that,
Yeah.
the dog's never going to stop,
Yeah.
okay? If you did 9, which is what that other client did, it's a nice little buffer, because I can't predict how long this is going to take. Is in case it takes more than 6, you're kind of already covered because you have those extra classes. If for whatever reason, maybe you 7 and you have 8 and 9 left over, and you're feeling very happy with what you accomplished, and then one day you need to board her or anything like that, we simply just convert it to credit, and then you can put it towards the boarding stay.
That's awesome.
You board dogs?
Correct.
How much? Like, would you take her?
Yeah, we take dogs worse than her, and bigger. Yeah.
So is it boarding and training, or do you just take boarding?
At my facility, we do boarding trains and daycare trains. For this kind of case, I recommend in person because you learn so much more.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you, in terms of if we want to go on vacation, do you guys board dogs?
Dogs that have trained with us are welcome to board with us at any point. We just need updated vaccination records. If we see her like once a year, we'll most likely ask you for a new fecal each time because it's been so long.
Yeah.
But they're not required to attend daycare once a week. Dogs that we've not trained are required to do daycare once a week to keep them used to our structure.
Right.
I run a quiet kennel, so like we've had as many as 70 dogs, and it's quiet. There's no barking. Not that dogs never bark. It's just nonstop like most places. Okay?
Yeah.
We reinforce training. So like one thing we do is like duration work, where the dogs kind of sit on the dog bed and like they're observing dogs being trained, dogs are playing, dogs are on treadmill and all that kind of stuff, and they're just kind of chilling out. So if we covered place command in our program, then if she ever came, that's another activity that she could do. Okay. Treadmill, maybe not. She's older, right?
Yeah.
So I usually don't like treadmilling the older dogs.
Yeah.
But if she looks like she's taking to it, because my staff almost always tries at least a couple of times to see how the dog does. And if she's doing well, then we'll treadmill her as well. Okay.
That would be great.
But yeah, she's dogs that we've trained, welcome to come to board whenever. If, for example, she tried to bite Win in the beginning when they're bringing them to daycare, was trying to bite my staff, but because we were training, we were just able to reinforce.
Right.
So we're not going out our way to train the dog, but if the problems start to come up, we do address them. And then, since it's my place, we address it the same way that we would teach our clients to address it. Okay.
That's awesome. What do you think, Mom? I think you're going to be her saving grace.
Yeah.
This is going to be amazing.
I mean, she's just such a loving dog. She sleeps in our bed and, you know, loves the pets and this and the most relaxed dog.
Yeah.
When I was sick, couldn't get out of bed. She like stayed with me except to go to the bathroom. I mean, she just, she's really loves my husband, although
She can be a good dog.
She can be a good dog. So hopefully you'll.
But yeah, should we do the 9 classes? So then,
you save money if you buy 9?
So it is cheaper per class the longer the program. So we do 3, 6, 9, and 12-week program links. Tina will send you, when she sends you the information for everything, she'll send you the price breakdown, and then the collar for sure I know is like $245-ish with tax.
It sounds like we need the collar.
we definitely need the collar. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So like, let's say you did a different collar, like a prong collar, for example. The reason why I don't do that anymore is because, like I said, you require the leash.
Yeah.
But you want to think, like, if I go to touch her and she's feeling threatened anyway, and you go to correct her with the prong collar, she knows it's you correcting her.
Oh.
Right? So she's like,
interesting.
why are you
Okay.
correcting me for being scared here, or whatever it is, right? Whereas a remote collar, she doesn't know where it's coming from. So it allows us to address the behavior without the dog going like, who the hell, why would you do that to me? So it's like, there's danger, and you're calling 911, and someone's like, don't call 911. You're like, why would I not call 911? Like, it's like, there's danger right there, right? It's the same thing for the dog. She feels threatened, she's being touched, they're pressing boundaries, whatever it is, and you correct her, and she's like, why am I being corrected? for trying to protect myself for
Mm-hmm.
XYZ. Because there's logic there. It's just not logic that you're seeing
Yeah.
as like that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that just about covers it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. If you have any other question you may have forgotten to ask, feel free to ask Tina. If they pertain to me, she'll email me. I'll send her an answer and she'll forward it to you.
Awesome.
Otherwise, she'll send you the price breakdown for the 6 and 9. You can mull it over. And
And
then,
the first 2 classes will be in Oz Park.
Correct. Weather permitting. And then if we end up for whatever reason, like because of rain at my facility, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay. Clients always get concerned, and I'm like, the way that I teach, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Awesome.
Anything else?
That's about it.
So yeah, so do you see hope for her?
I mean, it just comes down to, are you gonna?
We'll do whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Especially-
that's always the.
She graduated from college, so she's home with me for a little bit.
This will be my
Nice.
full-time job.
Excellent.
Yeah, she's got more discipline than I do.
You could be a dog trainer with the dog psychology.
Yeah.
It's funny
I
because
would
a lot
love
of the
to.
stuff that I do, I've had clients that are therapists or like they took psychology class for whatever reason, and they're like, "Did you ever take psychology?" I'm like, way back when.
Yeah.
Like when I was 8, I'm 37 now. I was 18, 20. They're like, the stuff you're saying we see, or like teachers, they're like, I see this with kids.
Mm-hmm.
This is all stuff that I figured out. Like this is just working with dogs.
Mm-hmm.
You just learn these things, and then it turns out a lot of stuff that I say is actually written in a book somewhere.
Yeah.
So I go, I must be saying something
Must be
right
doing
if
something
somebody
right,
else
yeah.
figured it out too.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Awesome. Well, so nice to
It
meet
was a
you.
pleasure, ladies.
Thank
I'll
you
grab
so
your
much.
bags before you go.
Oh.
Thank you.
Of course, I can't. If I can't figure out how to get it off,
okay.
I'm not gonna be able to figure out how to.
There we go. Awesome, ladies. Anything else, you let us know, okay?